Welcome. I'm Gail Kong, Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Oakland. Thank you for joining us to meet the candidates running for City Council District 4. This meeting is being made available with Spanish and Cantonese interpreters. Welcome. Andrew Rocha, Hernan Lafitte, Wei Kyun Tong, and Harvey Tai, who are helping us interpret. We'll take a minute for the Spanish and then Cantonese interpreters to give participants instructions in language so they can access the correct Zoom channel. Spanish first, please.
Sí, para aquellas personas que ocupan este servicio en español, por favor háganle clic a un icono del globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla y súmense al cuarto de español. Ahí estaré esperándoles. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
今晚嘅係市議會嘅係論壇咧，將會係由多種語言咧係翻譯嘅。咁如果大家係希望得到咧，我同同事嘅呢個係粵語嘅即時傳譯嘅服務嘅話咧，請你咧喺屏幕嘅底部咧係找尋呢個一個地球圖標咧。點擊佢之後咧，就係選取語言翻譯喺當中咧係揀選呢個 Chinese 係中文嘅頻道嘅，咁就會可以聽到係我同同事嘅係即場嘅口譯服務噶。咁如果你係用呢個平板電腦咧，或者係用呢個係手機嘅話咧，有可能咧係見到嘅係3個逗點係道理係一樣嘅。咁就係咁樣。好 ，Thank you。
Thank you. On the national scene, we may hear a lot about the midterms, but here in Oakland, the City Council is vital to our daily lives. Oakland has 8 City Council members, 1 is elected at large, and 7 by district. Each council member serves a 4-year term, and there are no term limits. The council sets policy for city departments, can change local laws called ordinances for things like zoning, permits, and licenses or local taxes. The City Council also approves all city contracts and the city budget. So you, the voters, can make informed choices. The League applies a few simple rules to ensure that you get balanced information and all the candidates are heard equally. The League always wants to give the community a voice, so the audience was invited to send questions in advance. Those questions have been sorted by a team of League leaders. And finally, candidates did not get the questions in advance. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce our moderator, Angie Crone, who is going to run the program this evening. Angie is a member of our Action Committee of the League of Women Voters of Oakland, and she'll take it from here. Angie?
Thank you, Gail. So just quickly, I'll remind the candidates of some key ground rules. Each candidate is invited to make a 1.5-minute opening statement and a 1-minute closing statement. For each question, the candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer, and we'll be switching up the order so you can take turns answering the questions first. The order has been chosen randomly. And to keep the discussion flowing, candidates will be expected to keep answers to 1.5 minutes. You will be timed, and the timer clock can be seen by all of us. And as a moderator, I might have to cut you off so we can stick to our schedule. So with that, I want to welcome our 2 candidates for City Council District 4. They are Nina Joyner and Janani Ramachandran. I'll now invite each candidate to make 1.5-minute opening statement, starting with candidate Ramachandran.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters, for having us tonight. My name is Janani Ramachandran, and I'm running to represent you on Oakland City Council. Less than 72 hours ago, one of my actual neighbors in the Glenview neighborhood was shot and killed as he tried to respond to robbers stealing his catalytic converter. This is the environment that we're living in. Daily incidences of senseless homicides, pedestrian and cyclist deaths, encampment fires and wildfires. And we need bold leadership that's going to step up and prioritize the voices and concerns of our neighborhoods first. We need leaders who are going to return basic constituent services. And I want to use my background as a public interest attorney. I've spent my career representing survivors of domestic violence, workers, and also small business owners. And I see the gaps in our current laws. I want to use my background as a former Oakland Public Ethics Commissioner to understand why our taxpayer dollars are being misappropriated and mismanaged at the rate that it is. I'm proud to be the only candidate in this race endorsed by the Alameda County Democratic Party, Oakland firefighters, California nurses, former Mayor of Oakland, Ella Hugh Harris, Supervisor Nate Miley, and so many others that believe in our vision for change. And I invite you to join us.
Thank you. And now to you, candidate Joyner.
Hey, everyone. I just want to say that this is a true opportunity. You know, time is winding down, and we've just been pounding the pavement over here in our campaign, and just very grateful and able to see Oakland from a different perspective. Been just a 27-year resident and a 13-year business owner. This is as a candidate. So today I sit before you because this is my job interview. This is me talking about who I am, how I expect problems, and it's also to talk about the issues of Oakland, which are housing, crime and safety, blight, and amongst many other things. But right now, Oakland has a common goal. We have a common goal to solve our three issues. Again, safety, housing, and blight. I think in this race, there is no other candidate that can do that. From the perspective of seeing as a resident 27 years, as a perspective of being that as a business owner for 13 years. I've been in Oakland, I've served on the boards. Now I want to serve the city of Oakland. My compassion has led me to come back to my district and enjoy the beauty of District 4 for all of its parks, its outdoor community. I myself have enjoyed everything about the district, from the people, the residents, to the small businesses, and definitely communities and the families. This is something that we can do together. I can't do this without you. But first, you're gonna have to see it done from me first. So join me at joinerforoakland.com.
Thank you. Moving into our questions now. What are your top 3 priorities and what challenges will you need to address to implement them? Candidate Joyner, we'll start with you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, so it's for me. Okay, so you ready? All right, so my top 3 priorities, which are the top 3 priorities for the city of Oakland, are definitely safety, crime and safety. We have to do a better job at making sure we have the right violence prevention measures in place. Right now, the city of Oakland is using money, but we need to make sure that those measures are measurable and that we're actually preventing people from doing violence. But it's not just the city of Oakland. We actually have to partner with regional partnerships as people are coming from other parts of the community of the Bay Area to commit crimes in the city of Oakland. But this is not just about crime. It's also making sure that we have safety and prevention in place. It's about making sure that our police force is taken care of and that they can actually apprehend and also enforce. It was just very devastating in our community. We're not only experiencing fires and the such, but we just had a gentleman who was killed because he told someone to stop stealing from him. As we have many elders in this community, it's important that we do that. But we also have blight, which we have to start to look at as not just dumping, but also trash collection. And how we're going to do that is we're going to tackle it day one. We also have housing. We need to make sure that we're getting more than $10 million from the state of California, and our other regional partners in the area, such as Alameda County, is actually sitting at the table with us. And this is a regional issue, not just an Oakland issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Ramachandran, to you.
My top, I have to say, 4 priorities is first, public safety, public safety, public safety. First and foremost, we need intervention. We need a fully staffed patrol. 35 officers at any given shift is simply not enough. But to address public safety, we also need prevention. We need programs that are going to give economic opportunity and skills to our most at-risk population. And we need to make sure that we're recruiting for our police force locally. Second, wildfire prevention. Oakland is at extreme risk of wildfire because of our natural topography, sudden oak death syndrome, the extremely escalating Monterey Pines deaths and so much more. And we need a strong vegetation management plan. We need a stronger emergency preparedness plan to make sure that every resident of Oakland is prepared to when a wildfire disaster does address us. My third big issue is roads and infrastructure. Roads, complete streets goes beyond paving, but we also, which is important, but we need safe streets to make sure that with physical infrastructure to make sure that cars are slowing down. We need walkable neighborhoods because walkable neighborhoods are safer neighborhoods. And finally, homelessness and affordable housing is an incredibly important issue. We need a regional strategy. We need to make sure that we're not wasting our precious homelessness dollars. As the city auditor's report mentioned a week ago, $70 million has produced over half of our unhoused population using programs back to the streets.
Thank you. Next question. If you are elected, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Oakland? And what are your ideas to encourage citizen engagement and pride in the city? We'll start with candidate Robin Chandran.
First and foremost, I want to reiterate that I decided to run for office because my voice and the voices in my neighborhoods were unheard. When I first decided to run for office, I was told no at every turn. And I want to make sure that residents are able to have their voice in City Hall and be encouraged to pursue whatever political advocacy that their neighborhoods needs. So firstly, I want to set up a District 4 Advisory Council. District 4 has many active and wonderful neighborhood councils and NCPCs, but we need to make sure that we're incorporating the voices of those not typically engaged in the process already, which includes some of our elders, our young people, non-English speakers, small business owners, faith leaders, artists, and so much more. And I want to make sure that secondly, my office is fully accessible. I put out my personal phone number on my campaign literature because I was on the other end of the table not that long ago, trying to call my own elected leaders in vain because no one would pick up the phone, no one would respond to my emails. And even if I don't have the right answers 100% of the time, I want to make sure that residents feel heard and that I'm trying my very best within the powers, sometimes limited powers of our current charter, to make sure that I'm pushing the needle to make sure District 4 residents are heard. And finally, and I don't have time to go into this further, I want to introduce a citizen volunteer corps where people can engage in local government through their volunteer service.
Thank you. And to you, candidate Joyner.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to the people in our district, the residents who are actually doing the work. I consider you super volunteers. I consider you city employees, and I just want to say thank you because it is a thankless job to do the work in the community to make it livable, not just for yourselves, your neighbors, and everyone that comes through, and just to highlight you as instrumental in how we're going to continue to do work once I'm elected. You know, it's about creating an opportunity for everybody in the community and letting them know that they're all valid and that they're concerned, and also their work and that their input is actually supported. You know, we have to start with task force. You know, once you get elected into office, I think the right thing to do is make sure that there's a town hall to create priorities for the district. But we have to create priorities for the district. We have to listen to residents. But not only that, we actually have to take what residents have done, applaud that, and actually create new projects. Residents shouldn't be doing everything. It's a thankless job. It's for me as a city council person, soon to be city council person, to take that content, deliver it to the city, and make sure it's actionable. Because we want to celebrate something. We need to celebrate the wins, not just the work. And that's why I'm running for city council.
Thank you. Next question. Small businesses and women-owned businesses have not been granted equal access to city contracts. How would you rectify this issue? Candidate Joyner, we'll start with you.
Great. I believe Ms. Gale started with talking about the difference between city council, what we're supposed to do. You know, contracts is a part of city council. I myself, just being downtown Oakland, I've gone into many of the offices to read previous plans that have been commissioned for the city of Oakland. Not one more plan can actually outdo the last plan. We actually need to have action on our plan. And it's not just at council, it's actually at the management, those who are giving out the contracts, those who are looking at the RFPs, to make sure that there's a meeting of the council and also management around those contracts to make sure people get taken care of. You know, I've seen the numbers. I've been that woman who's actually applied for contracts. I've also been that African-American who's applied for contracts. I think there's also work to be done, but also we need to make sure that there are task force and also workshops that are centered around making sure people, contractors, women, African-Americans are understanding the contract process and making sure that their content is getting to a yes. Because you can continue to get denied, but we want to make sure that these are yes projects that are getting denied. And I think that's important. I know that council can actually commission disparity studies or this kind of study, that kind of study. We just need to see what's already there and stop talking about it. And on council, I expect to start to talk about it more.
Thank you. Candidate Ramachandran.
I want to start with the reality of what our equity analysis revealed last year. Less than 4% of our city contracts go to Black-owned businesses, and less than, I believe, 10% go to minority-owned businesses as a whole. So I want to make sure that we're partnering with our Department of Racial Equity and our equity analysis task force to make sure that the non-white contractors applying for our projects are getting a slice of Oakland's economic pie. That bids for various contracts across the city are determined by equity and the person most suitable for the job rather than political favoritism, which is often how contracting works at this very moment. Secondly, in order to support contractors, we need three major things. One, access to capital. Two, technical assistance in applying for some of these sometimes convoluted processes. And finally, legal advice. At the start of the pandemic, I volunteered with the Berkeley Law Small Business Center's PPP loan, SBA loan project, and it was extremely clear who in Oakland was left out of getting economic relief. So as part of supporting contractors, I want to make sure that small local minority-owned businesses are first and foremost given the tools that they need, tools that they have been historically left out of because of decades of racism and inequity in our various systems. And finally, third, I don't have time to talk about that, but I want to improve mentorship to our youth and future small business owners.
Thank you. Next question. Currently, the city budget is being balanced by not filling over 700 city staff positions. Therefore, residents are not being served at the level that they should be. What would be your approach to solving these problems? Candidate Ramachandran, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. So we talk about basic constituent services, and a huge reason we don't have basic constituent services, not the only, but a major reason, is the fact that our city departments aren't staffed. It takes 4 to 5 hours for OPD to arrive at the crime scene of a property crime because we don't have enough officers. It takes 72 plus hours for a tree to be cleaned up that's fallen down because we don't have enough public works staffs. The list goes on when it comes to road paving, when it comes to applications and processes of permits, and so many other critical functions that demands having a vibrant public sector. So in order to address our staffing crisis, first and foremost, we need to address the fact that Oakland city staffers do not have competitive wages and benefits. Many of our positions are below market rate, and I would support having a market study done to make sure that we're ensuring our city staff workers are paid comparable to other similar sized cities. Secondly, we need to address the inequity among departments and make sure that what is budgeted in city council is not overspent. There are certain departments that spend more money in overtime, for example, and they're getting that from some of these vacancies purposefully not being, or not purposefully not being filled. And finally, we need to improve morale. We need to show that working in Oakland's public sector is a viable job. We need to improve local hire initiatives and not privatize.
Thank you. And to you, Candidate Joyner.
Great. As a former recruiter, there's this saying that says all money ain't good money. And I do know that if we do raise wages and make our wages competitive along with our benefits, it doesn't mean that people want to work for Oakland. You know, as we're city council people, I think it's the opportunity to make sure that we're not just improving our district, we're improving our city. Oakland is a workplace, not just city hall. We also need to make sure that the employee and the staff that we do have, that they're actually properly mentored. They actually have opportunities to communicate and voice their concerns, not just to unions, but just for worker benefit and also just camaraderie. We need to know what's going on, what they would like to improve in the community, because they are one of our strongest advocates for getting new employees into the city. But what I do know is jobs, there's a life cycle. You have application and then you have to desk. We need to find out, and that's the one study I think it's important to make sure that we understand the pipeline, how long it's taking for someone to apply and also to get into that position. And also from the point of in that position to a return on investment. Oakland needs to know that, because we have all of these open positions. It doesn't mean that the ones that are there aren't effective. We just don't know what they're doing. I think role of city council is definitely to make sure the budget is there, but it's going to be up to the mayor to make sure that these things are executed. We can account for more. Thank you so much.
Next question. Transportation is key to a successful city, and it involves coordination with other transit agencies, businesses, and stakeholders. Can you give us an example of when you successfully brought together competing interests to reach a successful solution? We'll start with you, candidate Joyner.
Great. As a small business owner, you know, one of the things we're always faced with are projects that the city has in front of our doors, down the street that impede traffic, new bike lanes, parklets. All of this is a part of the landscape of being in business in Oakland. But for small businesses, it's more critical because every day you miss a customer, you actually could potentially miss a bill, you can miss paying taxes, you can miss hiring someone, you can also miss the opportunity for growth. This is important, that we need to make sure that what's going on in the city around transportation keeps in mind small businesses. You know, on our street in Telegraph in downtown Oakland, bike lanes was the first thing I was very excited about. As a cyclist and someone who's done age life cycle multiple times, I communicated to the business owners, this is not a bad thing. This is important for us to get different customers and also have a healthy community. It was a hard sell, but they got it. You know, small businesses are one of the toughest in the city of Oakland. And we don't like parklets, but we got them. We don't like bike lanes, but we got them. And we also made sure that we worked with our delivery drivers so that all of that new structure, that it didn't impede us getting our deliveries. Our customers love us for it. Now we have various customers. I think working with our core community downtown Oakland has given me the opportunity to say, I know how to work with people around transportation.
Thank you. And to you, candidate Ramachandran.
I'm grateful for this question. I am a lifelong AC Transit rider, and because District 4 unfortunately does not have a BART station, we are absolutely going to need to collaborate with AC Transit, with BART, with every transportation system available to us to make sure that we have seamless transportation, we have affordable transportation, and accessible transportation. Going to the specifics of the question about bringing together competing interests. So I most recently worked as an employment attorney at Centro Legal de la Raza. And we have a lot of conversations in politics about the minimum wage. Oakland's is 15.06 right now per hour. The reality is that many of my clients at Centro Legal were earning $7 to $8 an hour right here in Oakland. And if we want to talk about enforcement, we need to, before it's a premature conversation to talk about some of these lofty policy goals without getting to the realities. So I was part of the Fair Labor Oakland Coalition, which was fighting to improve Oakland's Department of Workplace Enforcement Standards, a department that was passed by voters in 2018, but hardly materialized to this day. San Francisco has a model of having a similar department whose main mission is to make sure our minimum wage laws are enforced. Because at the state level, if you file a complaint for wage theft with the Labor Commission, you're going to be waiting 4 years. So we need a local enforcement body. And through the work on the Fair Labor Oakland Coalition, I brought together labor unions, small businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, City Hall workers, and so many more to get us moving forward.
Thank you. Next question. We have lost a lot of revenue from the closures of businesses downtown due to COVID. Therefore, what do you see as the future of downtown Oakland and its economic growth? Candidate Ramachandran, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. So we're in a crisis right now. We need to ensure that Oakland is inviting to enterprise and to businesses and to new industries, as well as making sure that we maintain our small businesses and legacy small businesses to give them a reason to stay in Oakland. And there's been a lot of conversation lately about whether or not a progressive business tax is going to harm that initiative. And my belief is firmly not. The Goldman School of Public Policy studies reveal that that is also not the primary factor. The top 2 ways to make sure that we're inviting local businesses, which Oakland is not right now, is 1, public safety, and 2, blight, and 3, homelessness. If you are contemplating as a new industry whether or not to set up shop in Oakland, your concerns are going to include whether you have to prepare for whether or not your windows are going to be smashed into every couple of months. You need to prepare for whether or not you're going to have to personally clean up the streets outside of your own shop every month. And we need to make sure that we're addressing the core issues surrounding whether or not Oakland can have a thriving business environment. So 1, public safety, 2, blight, and 3, permitting. Referencing the question earlier about staffing departments, our permitting process in Oakland is notoriously slow. It is notoriously hard to do business in Oakland. And the way that we can meaningfully address that is by making sure our departments that are involved with permitting can streamline these processes, including by having a full staff.
Thank you. And to you, Candidate Joyner.
I have a tattoo that says small business owner, and I mean that. You know, small businesses, you know, it's easier to start a small business in the city of Oakland than it is to find a job. Think about that. Small business is the backbone of the economy in Oakland. We can do this if we get them 3 things. How I know? Because I'm one of them. We need to make sure we continue financial literacy. We need to make sure that we make permitting actually easier for small businesses. And we also need to make sure that there's access to good capital. You know, anytime someone is opening a business, it takes permits. Those permits can wipe you out, even when you have money. We need to make sure that there's access to capital, because capital is actually gets us through permitting, actually gets us through building out of a new space, a new restaurant. A hood costs $40,000, and that's in a small 300 square foot space. We need access to financial literacy to teach us that money is important, but also credit is important, and how to position ourselves. During COVID, a lot of my small businesses, me including, lost out because of many things. But more importantly, they lost out because their books were not right. They're owner operators, and so they could not get the financial capital. So you're fighting tooth and nail to make sure that you can stay open, because you can't find a job quick in Oakland, but you can start a small business. I expect to be that small business champion from day to night, because it's possible here in the city of Oakland.
Thank you. Next question. Following the 1991 Oakland Hills firestorm, the Wildlife Prevention Assessment District was formed to collect moves to reduce the fire load. This has lapsed. Is there a need for, and do you support a special fire assessment for our district? Candidate Joyner, we'll start with you.
Great. You know, speaking to the roots in the community, there's a lot of roots in District 4. There are a lot of people doing a lot of things, from North Hills to Joaquin Miller, all around District 4. I just want to say thank you. You know, I wasn't here in 91 when the fire started, but my uncle was here. He was actually a media person in the Hills. He got sick because of some of that. So I can only imagine what the residents went through with all of their repair. But it's true, there's more that needs to be done. Talking to one resident around fire safety, they talked about an assessment. They wanted to tax themselves to make sure that things were done in their district around fire prevention. They missed it by 67 votes because the wrong number was listed on the City of Oakland's website. Now, that's not by coincidence, because anybody who goes to the City of Oakland's website understands that it is not great. The accessibility, the disability that we have in this website prevents us from actually doing the right thing. Not only do we need the people to make sure that things get done, we need the systems. We need to connect that. And when we do the assessments, because I think that will come back up again, I also think we need to manage assessment better, making sure that grants or monies that come for the taxes actually get appropriated properly to the work that needs to be done in the district. These are longtime residents. They've rebuilt one time. I don't think they're going to rebuild twice.
Thank you. And now to you, candidate Ramachandran.
Absolutely, I support the WPAD and want to make sure that we're working to get it back on the ballot by 2024. First and foremost, I talked about having a needing and vegetation management program to address our extremely urgent threat of wildfires. And that plan right now is currently sitting in the Planning Commission and waiting for some information from consultants. And the reason we have such a cohesive plan is because of the efforts of community groups that have pushed forward with accurate data, with realities of how urgent a wildfire is at this point, given climate change and our natural topography. But we need to fund it. We need to make sure that our vegetation management plan is funded first and foremost by an assessment district. And I understand that it may not be politically popular to a lot of residents. Not all Oakland residents have an understanding of the 91 fires. There are an incredibly large group of people moving into the Oakland Hills from other areas who didn't live through that legacy. So I see it as my role on Oakland City Council to be faithful to the legacy of the natural disaster that impacted thousands of people and thousands of homes and thousands of properties, to make sure that we're acknowledging that history and moving forward with the fact that that could happen again. We need to make sure there's public education to get a WPAD passed in 2024, to understand the gravity of the economic and personal damage that could be done by a future wildfire.
Thank you. So that is all the time that we have for questions. I'm now going to invite each candidate to make 1 minute closing statement, starting with candidate Ramachandran.
Thank you so much, League of Women Voters, for having us tonight. Today we discussed a variety of policy proposals and calls upon the county and state and others for funding. But the reality is policy proposals is empty rhetoric if you don't have a coalition of 5 votes, at least 5 votes, to make it pass. I am the only candidate in this race with that coalition of 5 current or likely future council members, with endorsements from our local county supervisor, the mayors and electeds in our local cities, transit areas, and park districts, to make sure that we're getting the funding we need. I have a background in advocating for state funding. Last year, I helped advocate for $40 million of anti-API hate initiatives through my service on the State Commission for API Affairs. And I want to work with you all to make sure that we build a safe and prosperous Oakland. And that work begins with putting the needs of our neighborhoods first. And that is exactly what I want to do for all of you. And thank you so much for considering me tonight.
Thank you, candidate Joyner.
I just want to say thank you for this process. The League of Women Voters are very legendary, so I'm very excited about this process. But I just want to touch on something compassionate for both myself and the other option for Oakland. I'm no one's opponent. I'm Oakland's option. But you have an opportunity to elect one of 2 persons of color, first time in District 4. It doesn't matter what we are, who we are, our background. What's important is I know for sure our dedication to wanting to run for you. Now, this is not a plea for 2 people, it's 1 person. I know, not a position for 2, but it's for 1. I know, but I want to just tell you that I'm here, I'm committed. The only thing missing in this mountain town, this District 4, which is very beautiful, people have to really visit us because it's a tourist destination, is snow and me as your council person. Vote in November, Joyner for Oakland.
Thank you to both of our candidates, Joyner and Ramachandran. We appreciate your service today. Being in the public eye and being part of this kind of work is so demanding, so we appreciate your willingness to serve, and we really thank all of our participants as well and their interest in making educated choices. Before we break, I hope everyone will respond to a very quick 2-question poll that should be on your screen now. We really want your feedback. And after this, please visit our website, lwvoakland.org, for information about our regular expanded services. Tonight's recorded program will be on our website in 3 languages and available on many platforms, including KTOP and YouTube. Also note that a ballot is being mailed to every voter starting October 10th. Registration and voting links can also be found on our website. And when you get ready to complete your ballot, you might want to check Voter's Edge, which gives all of the background information, candidates and ballot measures just for your individualized ballot. This is a great project of the League of Women Voters in collaboration with tech volunteers of MapPlay. A final reminder, the League of Women Voters does the hands-on work of defending democracy year-round. We hope you'll join us in that effort. Thanks. This ends our program. Thanks for joining and have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody.